Yeah.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, King, everlasting King of this universe. We come to you now, Abba Yah, humbled, your humbled servants, your Yaladim, seeking your face, Abba Yah, and giving you all praise, honor, and esteem. We thank you for this Shabbat day, Abba Yah. We thank you for the safe travels, for all that arrived to gather together. And we just ask, Abba Yah, that you bless this gathering, this Kwadash Mikra, this holy convocation, Abba Yah, with your Ruach HaKodesh. Give us shalom. Put your hedge of protection around us and all that are gathering together on your set-apart day. Let your Ruach rule, Abba Yah, as we open the floor to the elders. Allow your Ruach to guide the discussions, to use us as vessels, Abba Yah, to bring your word forth. And give all with ears to hear your message, Abba Yah. All with eyes to see your direction, Abba Yah, your instruction and your warnings. We thank you for the praise reports and the testimonies that just confirm your greatness, Abba Yah, and your love for your people. And we just ask that you continue to heal your people, Abba Yah, that are afflicted. Give shalom and comfort and understanding to those that may have vexed Ruach, have worried spirits, Abba Yah. And we just ask that you bring us all back together as you promised. And we will wait, Abba Yah. We will wait on you and have faith in all your promises, Abba Yah, because your word never returns to you void. In all things, Tob and Ra, good and bad, Toda Reba Abba. Blessed are you, Yahweh. Blessed is your name, Yahweh, and blessed is he that comes in your name, Yahweh. Halal Yah.
Hello, yeah.
Amen wa amen. All right, Mishpachah. If you have a specific question for a specific Zaqanim elder, raise your hand, or if you just want to put it out in general, and that's for the congregation that's here gathered in person also. I'm gonna pan the camera just so you can see who's up here to have Gadal Adon Abadal.
Shalom, Mishpachah.
Gadal Ima.
Shalom.
Gadal Ima Obadia.
Shalom, shalom.
And Gadal Ima Newkirk.
Shalom, shalom.
All right. So I'm gonna open it up to the congregation, the members that are here person first. If y'all have any questions or comments or that you have for the elders, it's open to you right now. State your question or concern, or well, I'll tell you what, let me get it started this way. Sort of kind of the things that, because the last open discussion we had, I remember Adon Shashamar, not Shashamar, but Uziel was saying how we kind of lost that courtesy, that hospitality, you know, and I remember Ima Newkirk was saying how things were being done that they didn't even realize was Torah at the time, you know, and the same thing with that hospitality, where that's in Torah, and I remember as a child, we would always spend our summers, well, most of the time we would spend our summers with my grandmother, and it was a pretty closed community, pretty Black community, African-American community. And at the time, you know, it really didn't dawn on me until I got older. And I remember my grandmother sitting on the porch, and somebody would walk past, one of the elder women would walk past, or elder gentleman would walk past, and they always wave, hey, how you doing? And my grandmother would always say, come on up here, rest your feet. Let me get you something cold to drink, come on, rest your feet. And they would talk and laugh for like hours, and then she'd send them, they would leave. And she always sent them away with something, with something. And that's in Torah. That's right in Torah. So those are the types of things that if you have questions about how did the elders grow up? What was life like with the elders growing up, and what's different now? So the floor is open. Seems like in-house is shy. So if anybody online got a question, we'll go ahead, we'll open it up. And anytime you get your courage or you think about something, just let us know in-house. I see Adon Michael, Elder Michael, I see your hand. Shabbat Shalom, the floor is yours.
Shabbat Shalom. I was just thinking about this week myself, how I think one of the things that has stuck with me for a very long time is just respecting the elders. Always respecting the elders, even to this day. If I'm out shopping or I'm out, handling a bill or moving within the community, and there's an elderly person behind me, immediately I'm aware of the elderly. And, I'll take the time to stand there and wait for them to come and open the door, or always let them go ahead of me, even if they're going slow, just taking my time. And, we'll usually end up conversating, just letting them know, no, you go first. I'm fine. I can wait for you to take your time to do whatever. But I just see that today that's something that's gone. We see throughout the news that so many vindictive and vicious things have been happening to elderly people these days. But that's just one thing that has really stuck with me. And I see that that's in the Torah, because the elders were always highly respected. I yield.
Toda Rabbah for that share, Elder. And any one of the elders want to address that? Are you saying you don't see that nowadays, right? That's kind of a lost courtesy, a lost respect. You're saying that's kind of gone. All right. Any one of the elders want to address that?
Yeah, it's one of the things for me, Shabbat Shalom, Mishpachah. The main reason is because we forget the Most High, the nations, and they try to put away anything that have to be with the Most High instructions. If we remember, like Zaqan Yaiqab was saying, when we was child, we used to have a little more knowledge about what's right and what's wrong. Right now, it's really hard to make a difference about that. Right now, everything is mixed. Right now, everything is, like I say, it's a mess. Everywhere you see houses, the way we raise up the children. Why? Because we know we lost our foundation. The instruction that the Most High is trying for century to preserve. For our own well, for our own. The only right way to see things, and we are walking into our own desires, into our own thoughts, into our own perspective. So we don't care about anything. So and that's why we are losing that respect, that kindness, that love. And I remember when the scriptures say we will be losing love because the bad thing is growing too fast and too deep into the main heart, that we become to be blind people. And that blindness comes with lack of knowledge. That's what they say. Why my people perish? For lack of knowledge. And when we lost that knowledge, and I remember always Shalom, what you need from me? I want wisdom. I want wisdom.
God.
And I remember it was Moreh Hanaya who say, for everything you do, get understanding.
God.
Get understanding. So when we get understanding and we know where we are, where is my position in the role we doing, then we can see other things be according to what the Torah is saying.
God.
So, but if we don't have that understanding about make it different, the good and bad, we lost. So, and that's what we are in the situation we are now, struggling with, try to explain people things, you know, the way you have to do this. You're supposed to do this way, but why? It's always a why.
God.
You know, why I have to follow that if I want to do this? Why I have to hear what you say if I know or I think this is the way to do? Why? And that's the point. We don't receive Shabbat. Why?
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to eat that. Why? Everything is why, because he says so. You know, and that's the main problem of everywhere you go. In marriage, in children's, everything, everybody want to know why. We don't receive, we can't receive correction. We don't accept that. To I say I'm wrong, it's a problem. I'm never wrong. Everybody's wrong. I'm not. So and that's the main thing on everything. If we put away the Torah from our life, not our house, our life, it will be always a mess. So that's what I want to say. So shalom.
Toda Rabah. Any emo, y'all want to address that at all? Can you slide that down up or down? Yes, because it's the background is going to blur, so it's got to be close.
Too close. Shalom again. Another thing too that I remember as a child, the elders carried themselves in a certain manner that commanded respect. They dress a certain way, and we don't see that now. As a matter of fact, I see elders who dress worldly. And if you're dressing like the world, then young people have a tendency to treat you more like their peers than they would with respect. And I say this because of situations I have experienced. I was in Sam's this week, and I was on the phone with Iman Newkirk, and I was pushing my buggy and walking down the aisle, and this young man, as he approached me, he bowed his head, and he said, "How are you, ma'am?" And I stopped and I said, "I'm fine, thank you. How are you?" He said, "I'm doing well, thank you, ma'am." And I said, "Oh my goodness." I mean, I was just appalled because you don't see that, you don't receive that. There are times when I've gone to the post office, what have you, and someone was approaching and they will run ahead of me and open the door. And I'm not saying that I'm doing all this right. I'm dressing a certain way and carrying myself that way. I really try to. But like Yahawadah was saying, they don't have the word and it's not being taught. We have so many younger parents out there now who feel as if I'm not going to raise my children the way that I was raised. And I feel like if I turned out okay, then if it was good enough for me, then it's good enough for my children. So you pass it down from generation to generation.
That's key.
Toda.
Any other emo?
Well, I remember when we were growing up, everybody went to church. You either went Friday, if you was Muslim, Saturday, if you was Sabbath keepers, Sunday, if you was everything else. Today, and everybody knew what church everybody went to. And your community was not only a respectful place, but you felt safe. But today, nobody goes to church on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and any other day of the week. And as Zaqan Yahawadah said, there's no Torah in the heart, there's no Torah in the home. Everything's been thrown to the side, and you see the difference it makes. They might not have had Torah per se, and of course, you know, some of the churches are teaching that the laws are done away with, but there was still a certain level of respect. Even if you didn't believe in certain religions, if you saw back in those days, you could recognize a nun when you saw one with those black robes. And you still bowed your head and say, good morning, sister, or whatever. And if the priest went by, you would say, good morning, father, no matter what religion you was, there just was a certain level of respect. Now you can't even tell who is a nun if they still have them. And just like he said, it's just gone to the wayside. Can it be regrouped? I believe it can be, but it's going to take a willing heart to obey the Lord's statutes and commandments and bring out children who will listen back into the ring. I yield.
You got anything you want to add to that?
Yes, I can add a little. Shabbat Shalom. Yes, I was just thinking as we're coming up, the elders were really respected, and as like I said, we was taught to respect the elders. My mother's taught us to respect our elders, my aunts and everything, and people, and we was taught hospitality. You didn't come to anyone's house and didn't get anything to eat. I don't care what time it was. You go in that kitchen and fix them something to eat. You didn't have to go stay at a motel. You stayed at the house. And so even as I was coming up in the Christian church, when we would travel from some would have our convocations, they would ask people wherever that city that was in that convocation, the people would stay in their house. And so it always have been a togetherness of people coming together, but it's not like that now. It's not like that now. So hospitality was a big thing. And if a kid, my mother would feed so many children sometimes coming to the house, you know, but if a kid lost a parent or something, and the uncles or aunts or somebody take them in, or somebody would take the child, and there wouldn't be no child going to no DSS. So we have lost that.
I want to say one thing, sort of to that. What is the root of it? What is, how did we get that way? How did we get that way? You know, I think it's, you know, the scripture says, there's a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof is death, right? And there's the other scripture warns us not to, in essence, envy the other nations, what they do. You know, don't learn the ways of, and the word in there is heathen, but it's nations, you know. And so I think that's what happened to why we don't see the things like that. When we were tight-knit, still kind of connected to that Torah culture, even though we didn't know it was Torah, we were still kind of connected to that Torah culture. And then when we started to integrate with the other nations, I think we started to, you know, because I'm just going to be very blunt and transparent here. I remember going to spend the night over one of my friend's house who was not Black, I'll put it that way. And the way they communicated with their parents and the way they, I was in shock. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Am I in the Twilight Zone? You know, do children really act this way towards their parents? You know, and then some of us, like Ima said, well, I like that. I don't mind my children speaking to me that way. So I'm going to raise them like this other nation does their children. And so we start to lose connection with our culture. We're learning the ways of the other nations, you know, and we're not bringing up the child in the way he should go, which is Torah, you know. And so that's when, and we slowly start to lose that. And we can see that's in Israel's history throughout scripture. We want to kind of take on the manners and you know, we look at the other nations thinking that it looks good, but it's not for us. It's good for them, you know, but the Most High said, you're mine, you do what I tell you, and I love you, and I'm going to punish you. So it looks like they're enjoying life because, you know, they're I'm gonna go that far, but their God is not punishing them. But our God said, you do what I tell you to do, you live your life this way, or else I'm going to punish you. I see Zaqan, Eliyahu, Shabbat Shalom, the floor is yours.
Shabbat Shalom. I will yield to any of the other elders that may have had their hand up before I speak, if there are any.
No, you're the only other elder that's got the hand up.
Oh, okay. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
I'll put this thing on for a moment, and hopefully your cameras aren't destroyed as a result of it. Anyway, I want to lamb back on some of the things that the elders have said, but I also want to harken back to a few cultural lessons that Zaqan Yaiqab has brought. And something that is very, very striking to me is that he said in a lesson several months ago, I believe that we were shorted in that we did not learn the fear of Yah, which first and foremost started with the fear of parent, then the reverence of parents, then the honor of parents. And as maturity and maturation would take place, there would come such an awesome reverence and respect of your parent, and your father, as in your heavenly Father, that you would not want to disappoint him. And it wasn't a thing of, well, I'm afraid, but you just didn't want to bring that pain to him because of disobedience on your part. Something that comes to mind as I was listening to everyone speak was a very, very valuable lesson I learned at 13 years of age. My mom's dad, everyone called him Papa. His grandchildren called him Papa. His great-grandchildren called him Papa. In my household, my children call me Papa as well. So I adopted that. But at 13, I went over to my granddad's abode, and he never left his doors locked. Don't care what time of day or night it was, the doors were never locked. And I went there. I'll laugh when I think about it now. I went there and I called out to Papa and I said, Papa, you here? No answer. And by the way, that man could slip up on any animal because you couldn't hear him walking when he would come up on you. And so thinking that he wasn't there, the Aaron thought came to mind. What would it be? What would it feel like to call Papa by his first name? And I looked around and I called out one more time saying, Papa. No answer. So finally I said, Freeman, are you here, Freeman? Wrong move, bad move. Because as I was brought up, you always had a handle, as they called it, respect for your elder. And though he weren't there in my mind, I thought, okay, well, I'll just leave. I started to walk, and the moment that I put my hand to that doorknob to push it open, I heard and then I felt. My granddad had a 7-foot bullwhip over the mantle fireplace. I heard it crack and then I felt it. 2 or 3 times, and I called out, I'm sorry, Papa, I'm sorry. Because I knew, as we say in Texas, can you smell what you stepped in? I knew what I created. And Papa said to me, son, as long as you live, I'm Papa. When I am dead and gone, I'm Papa. Do you understand that? And I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that was the only time that I ever called his name out to address him as such. When introducing him, I would still say, this is my papa, my granddad. And fast forward 40 some years later, had an occasion with one of my nephews. And I heard him call me by my first name. At the time, I think he was about 7, 8 years of age. And I said, nephew, what did you just say? And he said it again. And I said, nephew, I'm going to give you the benefit of something that came with a little of experience, and hopefully wisdom is the better part that you will latch hold of. And so I spoke to him and let him know what it meant to have a handle. And as he would develop in life, that if he were mindful of this, he'd never ever get in any trouble with law enforcement and so forth. And it turned out to be the case. So just that little tidbit. And I believe along the way, some in their households, as was said, they dropped the ball, because if it was good for them, they should have passed it on to their offspring, but they didn't. But love of Yah, love of parent, love of culture and Yah's people begins at home, and it concludes at home as well. I yield.
Yeah. Hold on, Maury. Toda Zaqan, Toda for that share. Yeah, tied to the culture, tied to the respect. And like you said, if we were taught to love it, you know, it would make all the difference in the world, really. If we were taught the ways to love them, you know, and to fear the Most High, and the family structure is kind of set up that way, you know, from the beginning. As a child, really, your parents are God to you. They protect you, they feed you, they clothe you, they brought you into this world, you know, I mean, by the blessings of the Most High. But the parents are like God to them. And so when they start to learn that, and you translate that to Torah and who is the one and only, then they should, if they love you, they're gonna love God the same. They're gonna love the Most High the same way, you know. Toda for that share, Zaqan. I think we got time for one more. Adon Shashmar. Oh, I didn't see that hand. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, Adon Shashmar.
Shabbat Shalom, all praise to El Elyon and the Most High. Again, I actually had 3 questions, but I believe I'm gonna ask the first one. I believe the other 2 are questions for a different time. But growing up, I noticed that you know, old people that are older, like people in their, I would say, late 40s, and then, you know, going into 50s and 60s. And I noticed that those individuals are a lot more disciplined than, I would say, people in my generation. People, I would say, 36 and under, I would say. And I think that discipline, the idea of discipline, that goes in with the walk, you know, and this walk, you have to be disciplined, you know, study time with the Most High, prayer time, you know, preparing for a feast, preparing for a Shabbat service, you know, just doing things with inside an assembly. So I believe that discipline is important, not just in an assembly, but also in the personal life. So that's just something that I noticed in my life, you know, at different places, jobs or different groups. You know, people who are older, they seem to have a little bit more discipline. And the question, you know, to sum it up, would be, how can we bring that discipline back, you know, within the assembly at first, and then maybe other people can see us and you can benefit from it. So I yield.
Toda. I just want to make sure I understand the question. Make sure the elders are understanding the question is like, what he sees now in people that are older, more mature, has a more disciplined way of life, can be dedicated and disciplined to a way of life. And his question was, how can we bring that back? And I'm gonna use the word culture if that fits, Adon, bring that back to our culture so that, people can see that. Is that Tobe?
Can, yeah. Because yeah, that's a bit unfair.
Okay.
Yeah, basically what you seeing is the instruction that we receive, because I talking by myself, I'm 50 now. I'm 50 now, but I was raised out with strong hands. Strong hands, when I say strong hands, same thing that Zaqan and Eliyahu say, I can respond back to nobody. Any other people, if I say even a word, I was in really big trouble. So, and I received that instruction. And the scriptures say, when you raise up the child with the rod, you create a man. You build up a man. So when I say rod, it's not only abuse, you know what I mean? It's discipline. Exactly what you say. I see more discipline on this man's age than in my generation. And one thing you need to look at, Adon, is right now on the system we're living in it, at the age of 18 years old, why they teach. You can move out to your house. A child with 18 years old don't know anything to go out and build up himself. And that's what's create more conflict in the society we're living in now. So when we give the authority to irresponsible people, that's what is happening. Because then how many children, because that's children, basically the 18 years old, unless they get pregnant. What they know about raise up children, what they know about how do you say, how to know to run everything in the life. Who teach them? Nobody. Basically, the new generation is learning by themselves. By themselves with the struggle. And that's why you see everybody in drugs, alcohol problems, and unrespect the elders, because nobody teaches them. And I think the way to rescue that is on the far we can reach then, and they receive correction, we need to be there for give some instruction. And when I say that, is the way I say this is because not all of them recognize they're wrong. For them, they're right. And everything they do is good. So, and I made this. And that's what I think, it's a complicated way to rescue that in the society we live in. We can do it in our community. We can teach our children. We are doing it. We are raising up our children in the house as a way they're supposed to be. And we can see that, but outside, if they don't recognize they're wrong, it's really hard to help them. So, like I say, it's a situation that every person has to recognize and see what is my position. I'm wrong, I receive it, what I can do to change. So that's what I want to say. I don't know if that helped you to see that. So, Ima.
I just want to say that you can make a difference yourself. Once you're married and you have children, you teach them discipline. When we were growing up, well, we hear the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It does. When we were growing up, our parents disciplined us, the community disciplined us, the school disciplined us, and the church disciplined us. And I think back during that time, the church was the pillar of the community. When things went wrong, people gathered at the church. They had heart, respect, regard for the pastors and the ministers and what have you. And people were rooted and grounded in the word then. And we've gotten away from that now. Everybody's doing their own thing. So we've got to return to that. And once we return to that, then we will see that discipline again in the children.
Joshua, I find that the answer to your question is difficult because the children of what is adults today who are in that 36 and above age group don't discipline the children that they have now. Therefore, when that generation has children, they don't even know what discipline is, and we have what you see now. So those who have enlightened themselves with the Torah and some type of a belief system would have a better chance of making the correction. But I know I have a set of grandchildren who I've never kept because my daughter does not want them, didn't want them disciplined. But then by the time the son was 16, 17, and 18 and totally out of control, then she wanted help and I couldn't help her because he was twice my height and everything else. And there was no way to discipline a almost grown man. So they seek help when it's too late. But when you try to give them advice, when the children are, bendable and trainable, they don't want it. So it's an individual quest on finding solutions if they want solutions. But like, I agree with what Audrey said, is that those who are in your position, who are interested in making changes, you can start with your own family. And I really, really believe my era came in integrating the neighborhood we moved into. So therefore, my children came up with this attitude of they wanted their children to grow up like the community they were in. And it has proven not to be to our best advantage. I'm not saying that, if you're in some trodden down, rotten, no good neighborhood, you don't move out. But we need to be aware of where we move to. I yield.
I just want to say that two things. They have lost the fear of Yah, and they have lost the fear of the parents. Because I know you put enough fear in your children, they will not buck up against you. My sister is 13, my older sister is 13 years older than us. So she was married out the house. She was in her own house, and she stayed next door to us. Like a family, they put their house next door. And so my mother was over there. So I was, little girl being nosy. I went over there. I was back in the, she was back in the room. And my sister Gladys said something. I heard the hardest slap go up against her face. And I came back. I ran over there with my twin and my Marilyn. I said, Marilyn, Mama, slap Gladys. I said, you know what that means? She would get us. I don't care how old you get. It's not the age. I think you could be, get the teenager thinking, Mama didn't play that. Whatever she had said, whatever she did, she didn't do it anymore. And so that's what I'm saying. The fear has left. And by me doing foster care and stuff like that, some people have the persuasion have asked me something, you're not afraid of them kids? I said, no. And my husband, and I haven't stopped him, and I have jacked some up myself because when she said he was first, I said, I have no fear because I guess I get that from my mom. If you don't put the fear in them when they little, and when they come up, and I got my grandson, and he be over there working and stuff like that with me and stuff like that, and he stands up over me, and he respects me. When he was little, I used to keep him, all my grandchildren, I would tear them up. So they know. So you got to put the fear in them. I don't care how old they get, they'll still respect you, but you got to put the fear in them. If you don't raise them the right way, I can hear some stories about how they say the kids be doing. I said, that's not my case. I've never had even going through foster care, kids that they wanted the book, but they think about it twice. They think about it, because they knew. And I have told, I even worked in a group home and they had problems in the group home. Kids want to bite each other, bite the staff and all that kind of stuff. I said, and I told one and went in there to get her up and stuff. And she opened her mouth. I said, let me tell you something. I said, I'm not like the other staff. If you bite me, this is my last day of working because it's gonna be on in here. And she never did it again. And so they gotta know, if you put enough fear in them, they'll know and respect you. But you got to put the fear in them. See, they got this generation now, they say, well, if you do this, I'll call DSS on you. That had my twin sister's daughter tried that. She said, call DSS. When DSS get here, you're gonna be able to tell them nothing. And so, so if you just have to put the fear in them. And if what people don't know, you can spank your kids, but you can't spank them with different things. They'll tell you you can't spank them, but you can. You can't spank them with your hands, but you have to have some kind of little object or something, you know, but you can't do all that damage, but you can still spank your kids. But they'll tell you, you can't hit me. Oh, yes, I can. I yield.
Shalom, shalom. Great question. Shah, great question. And I just want to first say, I'm gonna use this term. Have you ever heard the term? And I know a lot of people say you heard the term that someone has an old soul. And so when they say someone has an old soul, what they're saying is, your thing is you saying that you see 36 and below, they're not that mature, they're not that disciplined. And then sometimes you can see a 21-year-old, such as yourself, somebody say he has an old soul, meaning he is more mature than most people that 36 and below. He's on the low end of the age range in the 20s and still, as you were saying, he's acting like a 40-year-old. And so a lot of times young people take that as not a compliment, but that's actually a compliment. So back to your question, just to focus back in on your question. First of all, the scripture tells you about wisdom and it tells you about experience, right? So experience is what builds a certain level of wisdom and a certain level of discipline. And as Zaqan Abadal was saying, you know, there's things that a younger man or a younger woman don't know yet. She may know the word. She may have been given certain instructions and she's heard the word, because we've all heard the word. But when you read the word, like Samuel, he was going to be a prophet, but he had yet to hear Yah's voice himself, but he knew the word, he was taught, he was trained in certain areas, right? But the maturity, the time, the age, as you start to have experiences, those experiences bring a level of discipline. For example, when I was 18 to 21, we used to have a building that was close to the pool at the apartments where I lived at. And we was jumping off the top of the building into the pool, had no fear, or no sense, I should say. Me now, that's foolish. I could have lost my life, but we would have, if we wouldn't have jumped far enough, we would have hit dead to the concrete. That's the foolishness or the immaturity of a younger generation or a young mind. They do not understand, if this goes wrong, what is the cost? When you're older, you start to consider the cost, right? And so therefore, there is a certain level of maturity or discipline that you do have when you're older. And also, because you know the consequences that come because you've seen it happen to someone else. But part of your question, we need to be taught everything. And that's why, as Zaqan is doing this portion out, we need to be retaught these things. And as Ima says, so teach it to your children. And we have to start teaching in the Knesset, you know, and have these portions where we discuss these things, because it has to be taught. You know, the discipline has to be taught. The respect for elders have to be taught. And the understanding that you have to be able to acknowledge and see that. There's some young people that are not even considering what you're considering, that those who are 40 and upward are more mature than my generation. Regardless of what we know, they're more mature than us. They're more disciplined. So it will behoove me to join myself too. See, that's a taught behavior. Saw yourself on one of our men's study months ago, did a teaching about mentorship, right? And that is still very key. It needs to be taught and retrained that younger men should want to join themselves to older men. And older men should want to be around the younger men to set the example for them, so they can be taught up. Because as Ima Alrighty was bringing out, once a person gets too big for their britches, it's hard to change that mindset. And once a youth knows I'm now 6'4", 250 pounds, muscle bound, what could any elder say or do to me to stop me from my behavior? But if you were taught the fear of Yah as a young man, if you were already taught there's a limit to your manhood, I don't care how strong or how mighty you get, you never put your hand on your father. You never put your hand on your mother. You never put your hand on your grandmother. You never Do this to your aunt. You have to have the fear of Yah to understand that no matter my physical attributes, I've been taught the fear of Yah and the respect from elders that I self-govern like a wave that is strong. It comes up with a certain, and it goes right back out. A strong wave, unless the Most High causes a storm or tempest to come, does not wash up and just wash us away. The waves are very strong physically, but they have a point where they know to stop. So we have to be taught this at a young age to understand that this is Israel's culture. The respect for elder, the strength of mind need to be stronger than the strength of the body. The strength of mind, meaning I must control my mindset to know that regardless of what that elder said to me, I'm going to take the low at this point. I'm going to go to another elder and say, I felt like I was handled wrong or disrespectfully. That's where the maturity comes in at. So these things have to be taught. And I'm just going to share for me, myself, from my experiences as a young man, and then I'm going to transition to as a young moray. As a young man, I had people, and as Audrey was saying about the way you dress and carry yourself, so on and so forth, as the elder women, teaching the younger women and elder men that elders need to dress as elders. As a young man, I had those older brothers in the community that I looked up to. So if I'm 12 and they're already 18, 19, 20, 21, and they're working or they're in the military, and the way they have respect for their parents, the way they moved in the community, that's what taught me how to grow up respecting elders, because it was, like they said, before all the segregation we got all into all the other communities, it's just the way men carried themselves. So anyone younger would always have a respect for, I don't care if it's a year older, it was just a sense of, he's older than me, so I got a little more respect. He's been here longer. Those were the things that we seen. And when you seen how they took trash out for the elders, how they respected their parents, just the things they did and how they moved as a man. And then those older men would take some of us younger ones and would try to tell us, don't get in the streets. Don't do this, don't do that. You see the car that you always say, you like how I wash my car and I got 2 or 3 cars? I work for this. They instilled this discipline that they had into us. So it was a learned behavior. Then me transitioning from that, just as a young man, seeing those things in the community, to me being a moray. Yes, I had the knowledge of the truth. Yes, elders submitted to me as the head moray of a Knesset. But the Most High surrounded me with a cast of elders. So though I knew the word, my experience came from their experience. They trained me. They told me what to do, what not to do. They said, this is a mistake. You have to learn to do this. They never once usurped authority to me while we were in service, but behind the scenes, they were training me. They were telling me, I understand, because I was one, I'm gonna tell you, I was one of the ones that was wanting to throw away at some point. Even all that I had, I didn't like titles. I don't want to go by a title. Don't call me nothing. I just want to teach the word. I hope everybody get it. But the elders told me, in our community, you have to still have the title. The title's there so they know who's in charge. Who do they look to for this information? Who walks by an example, right? So saying that to say this, so once you start maturing as a young man, I'm like, oh, well, we're all the same. But no, we're not all the same, because the way I was raised mentally and spiritually, my all the same is I don't need a title. I'm automatically going to submit to my elders. But somebody else that does not have that training, they're not going to automatically submit to their elders. So there needs to be titles and things in place to say, this is the authority and this is the teaching that you need to receive, right? And I'm not trying to be too long with this, but it's a very good question. So as a young moray, even though I was a moray, I still submitted to my elders of true light, the elders that the Most High placed in my life. I was the voice, but they was the leadership. I was the voice, but they were the leadership. I was the teacher, but they were the leadership. Why? Because they were still leading through me. Because I submitted to their leadership, because it was experiences that their age brought forth. They knew the mistakes that would come with the take the chains off and making it too liberal or making it just too free with no restraint. You are already disciplined. So as the Torah says, or as the Mashiach says, the law was written for those who what? Who operate in the flesh. It's not given to those who are operating in the spirit. The law or the Torah is a schoolmaster to train you up. So until a person has trained up, there needs to be restrictions or things put in place to discipline the mind. So as you were stating, the Dome, it is true that a lot of times, in most cases, the older generation, as you reach a certain age, there's a level of maturity, and you learn because of the mistakes of others or the mistakes that you've made. And I think that, and with us going back to culture, and I'm going to say, I'm not even talking about the world now. I'm talking about the Hebrew Israelite community. The Hebrew Israelite community, young brothers, need to get back into subjection to elders and understand that no matter how much word I know, I'm still not experienced yet. I'm just starting my journey, but I need to join myself too. I need to continue to receive my instructions from, and as we read in the Brit Kadashah, when it said the disciples, they were sent out, and it said they will do what? When it was a matter, they will report back where? To the elders. This is cultural. Even in the priesthood, even the way we're moving today, because we have a lack of people in the truth sometimes, people are starting off at an earlier age. But there was an age range for priesthood. And when you first became a priest, you wasn't a teaching priest. You were just a servant. You see what I'm saying? So now everybody wants to be the voice and everybody wants to have something to say, but a priesthood or a ministry is a duty, is a responsibility. So the younger priests wasn't necessarily the ones that was going to be what? Bring forth the word. They were going to be the ones to make sure the tables are set, the trash is taken out, the food is where it needs to be. Whoever don't know the address to where we are, they outside, make sure they make their way into the building to the service. This is what it would look like. So it was a service. So these are the things that we have to go back to, because a lot right now in our community, a lot of people have gotten big for our britches, and therefore we're still not actually being a light into the rest of the world. So as Imam Vajra was saying also, that that she believes it could happen, but it will be hard in this generation we're in. But if we all in our community will start returning back to culture as it is written, then we are supposed to be the light to show the rest of the children. And we have to encourage our children, our Yaladim, online in building, to respect the elders, respect your parents, and be you, be who y'all call you to be, because it's going to start with us. A nation of priests is not me, myself, and I. It's me, myself, and my mishpachah, my family, the elders of my family, myself, and my Yaladim. So now the discipline that we're trying to teach in our homes, then it's supposed to actually be what? Carried forth also by our children, so that other children will start to embrace a certain thing. And then instead of letting our children go to their houses and learn their bad traditions and customs, let them come to our house to learn the discipline. And then let them also see the joy of Shabbat when they come to our homes. So with that, Don Shashmar, that is a great observation that you've made. And so again, my thing was, I've always had elders in my life. I've always joined myself to elders, so much to the point where I didn't run and hang with my friends a lot of times. I was always with the elders. And in my adult years, and since I've been in the truth and teaching the word, all praise, honor, esteem to the Most High, my best friend was Elder Herman. You know, that just was a best friend to a lot of us. So instead of hanging with younger people, I hung with the older people. And that's where my maturity comes from. And that's where the ruach of an old soul comes from, when they joined themselves to the wisdom. And that goes along with what Proverbs initially has been trying to instruct us. There's a certain way we're supposed to move. And so until we start applying this word, we're not going to actually return back to anything. We have to fully apply this word to our lives, not just saying I know Torah and missing the ruach that's written on the word that's telling us, as the elders were saying, they didn't even know they was already living Torah. They didn't know Torah like they do it, but their parents still had the ruach of Yah in them to teach that discipline. We know Torah and we don't have the discipline. So with that, we need to return back to those paths. Hallelujah.
All right. I'll praise the Most High. About to all the emote and the Zokadim, and to you, More. That was extremely beneficial to me. What I took from it is, do all that I can do, and teach my mission, my family, and then just be a light to those that are not in this world. Are you?
Toda. My last statement before I yield about the Zaqan Yaiqab. In the book of Titus, chapter 2, in the book of 1 Timothy, it tells you not to rebuke an elder. It said you rebuke not an elder. You receive the elder women as mothers and the younger women as sisters, right? And the elder men as fathers, so on and so forth. So those are instructions in the Brit Kadashah. But in Titus 2, I'm going to read a part of it. It says, but speak the things which become sound doctrine or sound teaching, that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith and in charity and patient. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becoming set apartness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. So it's an instruction in our community that the elder men and the elder women be sober, be of sound mind, be righteous, because they're the example of the community, and that they be what? Teachers of this, right? It says, teachers of good things, that they may teach who? The young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of Elohim be not blasphemed. Young men likewise exhort them to be sober-minded. So this is giving us a pattern. And what I was saying earlier, the younger women should be wanting to join to the imams or to the elder women to learn how to do things. As should the younger men be joining to what? The elder men to be what? to be trained up and to be taught. And as I said, train up a child in the way they should go. We need to understand when we can see the wisdom in someone, we can see the life that they live, that we can learn a lot from them, because that's also culture. It's culture that the elders teach the youngest. And so that's why we return to this portion. My reason for reading that today is because in case anyone, whenever Zaqan Yaiqab with the scheduled date for the Ask the Elders again, when we have these dates, it's for you to ask the elders whatever questions that you would ask that will be beneficial to yourself as well as to everyone else. That's why this discussion is so important. It's not going to only be what we teach. We want you to be able to ask the elders because it's beneficial to us all. Just like Shah Shamar's question, I believe it was beneficial to us all because it led to a large conversation, a long conversation. So that's what this segment is about, returning to culture and understanding that while we have them at reach and ear's length, you know what I'm saying, that we can actually do what? Ask the elders and we can receive from the elders because it's their job to actually pour into us, and they have a duty to us and we have a duty to them. So I use Zaqan.
Toda More. And I'm glad you went to Titus and Timothy. That's where I was going to try and tie in to that. You know, the Most High has set up a system. He has set up a system. And like you said, the child is under the mother first, you know, and then we look at our culture today, both parents are out of the house at the same time. Both parents are out of the house at the same time. The young women, you know, learn how to be like their mothers. And they learn, the young men learn from that also in the beginning, how to treat a woman. And then as they get older, then they go out with the father and learn, and that's all discipline. That's all discipline. That's learning how this thing is supposed to go. And the Most High has set it up so beautifully. And in Titus and what Paul in Titus and Timothy are reminding us of that. This is why the Most High has blessed the age. This is why the Most High has blessed family. This is why the Most High has blessed us with Torah, so that we can see all of this and put it in place. But a lot of times I think what happens to us here in America is that we've leaned more towards how the other nations are doing things, how the other cultures are doing things. And you got to remember, United States is a melting pot. There's all kinds of different doctrines and nations in this country. I mean, if we were in, let's say, just Spain, for example, let's say we were in a country that's pretty much homogenous. There's not a lot of other different countries in that country. There would only be pretty much one or two doctrines. But think about this, America. We got Chinese, we got Japanese, we got you name it, it's here in the United States, you know, and Jeremiah said that we're gonna lose. He's gonna cause us, if we don't cherish Torah and we don't fear him and keep his commandments, he's gonna make us lose that and serve all these other gods. And that's what's going on right now.
If you go to Saudi Arabia, whether Muslim or not, all the women will put a head covered on.
God.
You see what I'm saying?
God.
Like, that's the custom over there. We ain't let y'all come in with y'all ways. Them women be like, the reporters and all go there, like, give us a head cover. You know, now we want to fight against the head cover, but like Zaqan is saying, basically, some countries that don't just allow everything in, you ain't gonna just operate any kind of way. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be here, if you don't harm to come to you, this is how you conduct yourself. It's a discipline.
So that's my advice, and I'll go ahead and close. Adon Shah Shamar, is that we see the structure. We see the structure. It's cultural, and we got to start getting back to our culture and not try and blend these other cultures with our culture. We've tried that. We've seen that in history. It doesn't work. That's why he said, be Quadash, be set apart, be holy, only unto me and my Torah. Toda. Maybe next time we're here together, we get some questions from inside the Knesset. But that's my time. Toda Rabbah, first and foremost to the Most High. All praise, honor, and esteem to the Most High. And then Toda Rabbah for the Zaqanim helping us out in this portion. I think it was productive, and we'll probably do it a lot more often. I yield, More. Toda for y'all's questions. And we'll try and do this a little bit more often. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Give the floor to Don Kanak, yeah.